Hello, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Spark's and HubSpot's live design workshop for non-designers. I'm Amy Copperman. I lead Adobe Spark's content marketing and community efforts. A little bit about me, I am a writer by trade, not a designer, although I've been faking it pretty well the last couple of years thanks to Adobe Spark. And we're going to show you how you can do the same. I am joined here by my colleague, Amanda Federley. She is one of Spark's brilliant design minds, and she's specifically responsible for a lot of the template and inspiration starting points that sets non-designers like myself up for success. She does a lot of other things as well. Amanda, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, as Amy said, I lead content design for Adobe Spark, which really means, enabling best practices through templates, all of the kind of graphic design ingredients that you see within the 3 apps. And yeah, we're just really here to help people who, don't know design or who want to have really deliberate communication, come out with a beautiful result.
Great. And on the line, we have Carly Steck from HubSpot. She is a campaign marketer and former blogger, and she's going to be our point person for distribution and marketing expertise. So once you've created content, what do you do with it? How do you get the engagement that we're all looking for as a marketer and deliberate communicators? Carly, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to get started today. A little more context about me. I've been at HubSpot for about 3 years in really content-heavy roles, and as a result, I've had to teach myself a lot about design, not a designer by trade. So I think we'll have some good tips for you guys today.
Well, good. So to talk briefly about what we're going to do today, we're going to start with some design best practices, and then we're going to really get our hands dirty actually creating the types of content that do well on social and campaign marketing, content marketing efforts. And we're going to do that with Adobe Spark, which is a fast, fun, and free design tool that allows you to create graphics, web pages, and videos. And you don't need a design experience to do it. But we're really going to talk about design strategies that set you up for success, that make performing content marketing and marketing campaigns perform great. So, and then in the last 15 minutes, we'll open it up to Q&A from you guys. And this is a live interactive workshop, so follow along on Twitter. You can use the hashtag #YouCanDesignToo and tag at Adobe Spark and at HubSpot, so we're sure to see your questions. Tweet at us. We want this to be interactive and fun and really helpful for what your challenges are at the end. So, I guess let's get started. So let's start at kind of like a higher level. Amanda, this question is for you, and it's a big one. Yes. What makes good design? What are some things that marketers can think of, as they're tasked with creating visual content? How can they even get started if they're not familiar?
Such a good question. So I like to think about it as like, what's the commonality between marketing and design? Mm-hmm. And I think, at the end of the day, we're all trying to communicate something, to tell a story, to get an idea out there clearly so we can engage action, whether it's, through promoting a campaign or selling a product. But ultimately, it really comes back to what your communication goals are. And without knowing those, you're just going to be making a bunch of like visual choices in the abstract. And I, for one, definitely know I can get kind of lost, like choosing colors and fonts, and I'm not really thinking of like, what's the core goal that I'm trying to communicate. So I think that's where, just defining like a really quick creative brief, who do you want to talk to, what goal or action do you want to engage them in, and what's your kind of like purpose for, why you would make a series of design choices. And that's great because that's all kind of like marketing's, power spot anyway.
So true.
And then once you get into thinking about, okay, how am I going to visually bring this to life? There's just a couple, kind of like basic graphic design principles that you can keep in mind. So thinking about things like alignment, hierarchy, symmetry and scale. And we'll kind of break these principles down today as we walk through some content. Repetition, proximity, color palette, your typeface choices, and, pairing. I think what's most powerful is to think about like, what mood am I evoking and how am I going to pair type, imagery, and color to really create that mood. Mm-hmm. And ultimately that mood should align with your message. And then from there, it's kind of like just repeat that. You really want to get to that place where you're just repeating that consistently so that your campaign or your feed really kind of evoke that same kind of mood or idea.
Yeah, consistency is very important, especially when you're creating campaigns.
Yeah.
And you want to drive one message forward. You can use visual cues and consistent design to help you do that.
Yeah.
One thing that I like to do as a non-designer, thinking about best practices for design, is like check my design against these principles that you were talking about. And the ones that I feel comfortable doing is like legibility. Can people read it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I do this like squint test. I like kind of leave it for a minute, come back to it. I ask other people, can you read this? Is the message coming across? And another thing that, another good point you made is keeping your communication goal at the center of design. And design is not just, beautiful. It's beautiful, but it also at the core is a communication. Yeah. Communication tool. Carly, and then in terms of what kind of content should we be designing to make campaigns fly? Do you have a sense of, any sort of, what sort of content works well?
Yeah, so I think what's really overwhelming for most marketers that aren't natural designers is there's so much you can do with visual content, and it's really hard to figure out exactly where to start. But what's really important about visual content and what's great about it is that it really does fit into like every single stage of a buyer's journey. So it has its place everywhere. It's just a matter of, I think, starting to think about exactly, again, back to what you were saying, the action that someone's going to take and sort of what's the best format from there. So we know we have like social images, videos, infographics, blog graphics, memes. There's so many different things you can do. So I recommend narrowing your focus by just picking the part of the funnel, the part of the buyer journey that you want to focus on, and then using that to sort of tailor your formats. So if you're focusing on awareness at the top of the funnel, you might focus on things like blog graphics and how-to articles or social posts. And if you get a little bit further down and you're trying to convert these people or close them, you might use product videos as a piece of visual content to sort of guide them along and help them make that purchasing decision. So I think, again, it can be super overwhelming. The goal of this for us is going to be to sort of tell you exactly how to approach that and also help you, again, narrow your focus so it doesn't feel as intense as you're getting started.
I love that. I love that point about different content serving different purposes and having, again, back to Amanda's point, having your goal in mind as you create the content. So yeah, awesome points. So should we dive into creating content? Let's do it.
Yeah.
So actually I'm going to share our screen to set this up a little bit. So again, we are using Adobe Spark, which is available on iOS and spark.adobe.com. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. And for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to go on an adventure. So Amanda and I like to do this exercise where we create content with like a goal in mind. And that's really, so we wanted to bring that to life today. Amanda, will you set up our adventure today?
Yeah. So to practice our own best practices, it's really hard to talk about, design in the abstract. So we thought we'd ground this with kind of a persona. So Rachel is a travel blogger, and she's partnered hypothetically with a tourism company to create kind of like an insider's guide to San Francisco. And there's some kind of special aspects of this insider's guide that we'll get into. And today we're just going to kind of walk through her journey. And now that she's created this guide, how does she, share it across channels? And really create content to drive people back to the guide. So that's the kind of setup. So we'll hang out with Rachel as we go on this adventure.
Awesome. Can everybody see our screen well? I want to do a quick check since we're live, and I don't know, Carly and Bethany, how are you feeling?
Good. I'm seeing everything.
You're seeing everything. Okay, good. I can't see it on our side.
I'm seeing you now. I was seeing your screen before. So
okay, great. Cool. So we're going to dive into creating long form content. So a lot of marketers are investing heavily in long blog articles and content offerings. I know HubSpot. You guys do a lot of long form content. You want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Sure, it's a huge part of our strategy. So I think like what we've realized in the past few years is that content marketing is such a saturated place at this point that if you want something that's going to stand out, you really have to go like above and beyond to create the best resource on the internet, which inherently comes with length a lot of the times, but also comes with a really cool opportunity for you to balance that length of that written content that's going to rank with a lot of cool, interesting visuals that support your message.
Right. So for the purpose of this, Rachel has created an insider's guide to San Francisco. She's done a lot of research. She's taken a lot of photos of her favorite places, and she has all these places that she wants to recommend. She has pages and pages of text, and she's like, how do I make this beautiful and visual? So she turns to, let's see.
Hey guys, we can't see your screen right now, so
we're just writing it.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So it's pretty good.
All right. You see it now?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, you have to drive here. So this is this is the beginning of her guide. She has combined text and photos, and she's pulling together all of her imagery and all of her tips into a visual format using Spark Page. And this, the output of this is actually a web page and a link. But we're going to talk first about what makes this work. So we have here we have a clear headline and subhead and a visual cover. This is like the cover photo. Amanda talked a little bit about hierarchy and the importance of that. And here, Rachel's done a good job in doing that. We have a clear title, a header here, and then she's broken up some text by using images to, and she has this like nice relationship between her text and images. So anything to add here?
Yeah, I would say like the beauty of Page is you can create these really beautiful long scrolling web pages without knowing how to code, which is awesome. And then visually from the kind of like the expression perspective, it just does such a beautiful job of combining text and imagery. So like Amy said, what we're seeing is, kind of use of hierarchy and scale and this kind of really nice parallaxing effect. So Rachel could go in and add more photos. One thing that's really awesome in a page to kind of keep a consistent formatting like you would on any web page is to use your photos. Like there's I think this photo is full window. And so it's kind of acting as like a really nice section, section header, breakup or header. And as your viewers are visually scrolling down this page, if you did that for every section, they would really kind of get a clear sense of like wayfinding in the content of, okay, this is a new section. Yeah. And so kind of combining, the impact of the full screen imagery along with, parallel structure for your headlines, pulling out really interesting points as pull quotes, it makes for a really engaging read. And the editing experience is so easy. All you have to do is just click on a plus button and you can add images and text.
Right. So when you have a lot of content, you want to create a nice visual reading experience, and one way to do that is organization.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you were talking about that. In this case, you can use photos to kind of mark a new section, and you want to make sure that you're consistent. So let's dive into how to do that. So again, this is every time. For people following along on Spark, every time you see a plus sign, that means that you can add content, and that makes for a really easy editing experience. So she's added a header. This is an H1 tag, but she doesn't really even need to know that. She just adds text, and then she formats the text. Heading, header 2, which makes it smaller if she wanted to add a subhead here. And then she's setting up a new section. She wants to introduce herself, and so she's added a photo here. There's different ways that you can format photos, and like Amanda said, kind of choosing one and remaining consistent can give your content a lot of structure and make it easier for the viewer to read it and consume it. Yeah. So just to like play around with different ways that this could be formatted. It could be full screen if she wanted to give it a little bit more punch up, and take over. So this is great for if you want the image to be the main focal point.
Yeah.
A window makes it a little bit more, this is where we started. It's kind of just like a little peek. And this creates nice header photos to kind of set up a new section.
Yeah. You want to check in the grid too.
Yeah. And then in this, we have another header and then another section photo, and she wants to then follow that up with more imagery. And so she's created a grid. And that's just, again, by selecting the photo grid and adding photos from either your camera roll or from your library, from your Dropbox, anywhere. You can also search for free photos if you hadn't taken any. So this creates nice visual, it keeps eyes moving, it keeps people connected to the reading experience. It's grabbed attention, and then it's keeping attention by having a lot of variety in terms of how imagery is showing up, and how text then relates to it. So, so this is how this is the main piece of content that Rachel wants to drive people to. This is her destination, her offer, and now she's tasked with how to do that on social and through email and stuff. So, Instagram has been really interesting for marketers, and maybe Carly can speak to that. Especially Instagram stories and all the different things that marketers can do there. So Carly, do you have any tips there?
Yeah, sure. So I think Instagram lately has been one of the more interesting platforms for brands to engage with their following on. I think that it's great because it's a fully visual platform too, and that helps brands showcase their products. I like that there's the option to do a static post, which is great, but you can also do Instagram stories, which are really popular. There's a lot of different things you can do there and a lot of different things that you can test. And it's a great way to get feedback because people can interact in real time with those posts, which is really cool. So I think Instagram is a good bet for a lot of businesses if you're looking for a specific platform that you want to focus on.
Right. So your feed can be kind of more your brand marketing, your beautiful imagery to catch eyes, and then your Instagram stories can be kind of where you convert people and where you get a lot of engagement. So in this case, we're going to create some social graphics for Instagram stories, and we've gotten some started here. This is we're in our posts that we've gotten started for Rachel. But if you click over to the templates, these are all of the inspiration and starting points. And you can, search by different categories. These all set you up for design success, and they have some best practices built into it. So, one clear message, for instance, this Ice Ice Baby one is kind of fun. Like, it's grabby, that's very social. It's clearly, actually, why don't you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I say generally in template design, what we do is really think about, like, is type the hero, is imagery the hero, and we really put emphasis on a certain amount of expression. So for this one, Ice Ice Baby, like, type is really kind of owning the day here. Mm-hmm. So the imagery in the background is, pretty plain and simple. So you can actually have type stand out on that image. But again, it's also, of course, represented to the main kind of message that we're communicating. And then just Post does a really great job of automatically suggesting color palettes based on the imagery you add. So actually just in creating this image, we already got, a really great color palette to work with. And so the tool is also helping you, reduce that kind of complexity of decision making.
Awesome. So let's dive into creating some of this content. So which one would you like to start with?
Let's start with the street art one. So, you saw the guidebook. Rachel's trying to promote, different kind of hidden SF gems. Mm-hmm. And so a really great way to kind of like tease sections of that guidebook could be to take one of those gems out and focus on it in a story. Yeah. So she's created this, street art graphic in Instagram story size, and just kind of working with it right now. And, one thing that she might want to do is add a call to action actually to the story to get people to engage with the guidebook.
Right. So the guidebook is this big piece of content, but she needs to narrow her focus and get kind of micro for social media, because you can only really communicate one thing on social media with one post. So she's doing that with an Instagram story layout. And I like how she's got a clear call to action.
We're going to make it even a little more fun here. She's going to say swipe up to see the guide.
Nice. Good call to action. Perfect. Okay, it's a little small now. So
now it's a little small, and like that. It's kind of not super easy to read the turquoise on the black.
Yeah.
So contrast maybe is something she wants to think about here. So she can just easily come in and select a new color of text.
This is fun. One of these things that I do when I am trying to figure out, do I have enough contrast, is I like actually squint. And if your words fade into the background, it's a cue that you need to up the contrast between your background and your text.
Yeah.
I think another really good tip there too is like, if you actually don't have a mask around an image like we do in this one, is just when you're selecting the images that you're going to use in the first place, to try to find ones that have a little bit of white space or have space in them where you can just put text without something behind it, and it's not going to fade into the background. And that's just the right balance of the photo you choose.
Yeah, so a lot of her photos that she's working with have really busy backgrounds because of the nature of what the content is. And I like how she's kind of, this mask is also a nice like communication.
Focal point.
Yeah, it creates a focal point.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a really good point. So some of the other, this one, for instance, she's going to keep, so one thing we were talking about earlier is keeping consistency. So she's decided that, all of these stories are going to be masked out. Mm-hmm. But to your point, so then, when you're seeing the story view, it's this consistent kind of circle that's moving across. I think one thing that was mentioned earlier, which is really important, is the context or the channel in which these are going to land, mm-hmm. and how to really, use the best design practices or paradigms for that channel. So if she wanted to say use something not masked, she could come in and just edit this and put a backing shape on her text to really maintain like strong legibility over the text.
Oh yeah, that's so much better.
One of the, it's like not the right
this
color.
This is more of like a simple design. So she's added her photo that she snapped to a new project in Spark Post, and then she adds text. Actually, would you mind showing that workflow just to see how you can get started, and then maybe we'll work our way to the masked shape.
Sure. Here, let's just copy and delete this. Pretend we're starting from scratch. So it's super easy. To basically create any project in Spark Post, you just hit the plus button, you go in, you're gonna search free photos. She took this one, so she would just upload it from her library. So she's gonna start with her photo, and then just really quickly add text. It's like one tab, we're just gonna copy and paste, kind of save time here. And then there, she has her text, right? So she can kind of reposition and move that text around. She can find something kind of graphically that works. I think because the photo has so much visual interest at the top, she's just going to be competing with the image to put her text at the top.
Yeah.
So there's clear space for it at the bottom. So that's always kind of just, those principles we talked about in the beginning, like looking for balance or proximity. Look for that in how you relate type and imagery.
Right. So if it was up here in like this amazing colorful hair, we're competing with the background.
Exactly.
But if you bring it down a little bit, it's a nice relationship.
Yeah. And then you also generally want, your text to be kind of as strong or stand in conjunction with the photo. So she might choose like a different color palette to really kind of pop that text out. And you can see Post is kind of picking up, some of the color from the imagery to have a really nice association.
Yeah. And so she might be like, okay, this is a good starting point. You could post this. You could post this out here. You could also post this across different platforms. So we have this kind of already loaded for you. It's really important that Carly can speak to this, to create content natively for where you're going to share it. And part of that is the sizing.
Yeah, so say she wants to promote this on Twitter. She just easily resizes it, goes exactly to the Twitter dimension. And then what she might want to do is actually change that call to action. She can reposition the photo a little bit. Like left or right cropping is really nice, because then you're going to leave some space for your text. So say she's feeling happy with that. And she could actually, Twitter, her call to action might be kind of different than Instagram, where she's promoting the different gems in a story timeline view. Twitter's a bit more, you know, one shot. Unless someone goes to your timeline, they can't really see what came before and after. So she could edit this and say, you know, check out my SF gems guide.
And images on every social platform perform way better than just plain text. So it's important to add that, and in the format and in the size that's readable for a mobile consumption.
Yeah, and because on Twitter she can actually post a link, right, with that imagery, then she can have more of a relationship between the image and the call to action, which would be the link to the post.
Right. All right. So I'm going to take us back to our Instagram story creation flow. Let's go back to Instagram stories. Okay. Back down. I'm going to let you drive here. And I liked how the masking design kind of gave, created some intrigue. You want to swipe up or you want to go visit the guide because you can't see the whole image.
Yeah, you want to find out more.
Right. So how do you get there?
So with the mask?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that was a bit of a, in post right now, you can add a simple shape and then you can use the knockout effect. So I've just added a period, like an actual glyph, and then scaled it way up to become a circle. So you can see I can resize the mask there a bit. So I could crop, you know, different parts of this or have kind of different impact or scale. And then that was just basically the image with the mask, and then the mask, the shape is the color black. And so that's what creates that kind of black overlay.
And you're doing another really interesting, cool thing with text here to make certain words stand out, pop out.
Yeah.
So that's another good, when you want to drive home a message, making sure that the message that you want to drive home stands out in some way.
Yeah, so what she did there was a great feature in post called multi-style lockup, in which you can select certain letters or, you know, parts of a word to emphasize it. So she's kind of chosen to combine the words street and art here, street art, and then just made art a different color so that you really read it not as street art, which you would if it was all one color potentially.
Right. Right. And before we move on, there's another design principle at play here. So she's picking up some colors in the hair to inform the colors of her text. Yeah. And that is a great way to create a relationship between your text and imagery so that it kind of becomes one and flows.
Cohesive.
Yeah. So I think we have to move on to creating social videos.
Yeah,
with our high sign. So, but just to wrap up, you can create a series of images. You can also, once you land on a design, one of the things I love about it is you can duplicate it, and you don't have to start from scratch. And then there you go. There you're creating your own consistency.
There you have velocity.
Velocity, yes, which is so important in creating campaigns. And then you just change the background, change your text a little bit, and you've created a consistent look and feel for your campaign. All right, so Carly, do you want to talk a little bit about video and how video is, like, the state of video right now in 2018?
Yeah, so I think obviously, like, if you're on social media, you know that video is huge. It's exploding. It's been the year of video for probably 5 years now. But I think that brands are still really trying to figure it out. And that's going to be a process that I think is going to carry us through the next few years as well. But what's important is that users are interested in engaging with video. We have shorter attention spans. It's a really visually stimulating way to communicate what otherwise might be a long written message in a shorter way through really easy to understand video visuals, essentially. So I think it's a great place where brands should be investing. Again, I think if you're a non-designer, it can be very intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. Again, you have to start small, try little things at a time, record your screen, add some graphics to it, and just sort of see what resonates with your brand and then build your strategy off of that.
Yeah. Yes, so true. So some things to keep in mind also on when it comes to social video, you need your video to be readable.
Yeah.
So leverage, a lot of people are watching video on their mobile devices and they don't have sound on, at least initially. So you want your message to come across. You can do that with text on screen, with captions. And let's dive into first, let's looking at an example that Rachel's created to promote her guide. And then we'll break down how some of the best practices that she's using here. And there should be sound, like music, but I don't know if it's coming through our live, but
yeah, but it looks good. So
yeah, in the sound off environment we're in, it's working well.
Exactly. So this is a good point. This is
great proof that you don't need sound to have a really impactful video.
Exactly.
Exactly. So a couple of things that this video is doing well is that you get the message across. She said basically one thing. San Francisco's Mission District is full of art painted by local artists, and it's the hook, and her main call to action is to drive to it. So one thing that I like to do as when I'm creating social videos is really distill my message down to literally one thing. And if you are creating more longer form pieces of content, really no more than 3 things.
Yeah.
So I like to, actually what I like to do is go straight into Spark Video, and Spark Video is a slide-based editor. So it's also kind of works as your storyboarding. So I kind of start with my message and then add content to it. Which is the strategy here. So I was like, this is what I want to say. I'm going to place it into slides and then add my visual content, to layer the visual content in that. And like the other formats that we covered, doing so is just about, doing so is just clicking plus buttons.
Yeah.
So this video was almost there. I think that it lacked a little bit of social media pizzazz. Like one of the things you need to do is get attention in the first 3 seconds, which is so hard to do. But one way to do that is to kind of work with like the themes and the transitions and the way that the text appears on the screen. So Spark Video has some built-in themes that will help you do that.
So yeah, she can go in here and kind of select a different theme. Statement's actually really great for kind of stand out on social because the type's a little bit bigger, and then the transitions just feel really fast and impactful. So they're really good for kind of grabbing attention. The different themes have different moods. So again, kind of getting back to like what your original goal is and making choices based on that. So she's going to select statement and then say done.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we talked about was she might want to add a cover slide that kind of connects with her overall street art or SF Gems message if she's using that as kind of like her hook, her campaign name, or her tagline. Because that cover slide of the video, you can actually select whatever slide you want to be the cover, but whatever one you do select ends up becoming the preview on social channels, the thing that people first see to really grab them in. So you want to really pay attention to Amy's point, 3 seconds isn't a long amount of time. So you want your kind of first slides to really carry that action.
Yeah, so this first slide, like if this is your first one, you're maybe not connecting with it. It's like we've caught it in a weird place, like the man painting.
Right.
Like it's not the visually rich thing that's going to grab people.
Yeah, so we're just going to search some of, Spark's free images, and there's the one that she had already decided to use. So she can really easily just drag that slide now to be her cover. And then she might add something that's more along the lines of, street art to go with her overall campaign. Done, and then that kind of becomes her new cover.
Right. And then
she can reposition the text too, so it's not
tip.
blocking the woman's face as much. And then you can also go in and, kind of pan, zoom, crop that photo to get, a nice layout.
Oh, that is a nice layout. That's much better. And then if you wanted to, you want to make sure that when you have text on screen, people can read it. When you're adding just photo and text, Spark Video defaults you to 2 seconds, but you can always change that by moving this slider. Although since this is just her first slide, we want to actually keep it, we want to bring it down so it's really fast paced, because that's what That's generally what you want. This is the theme and kind of mood she's going for. So let's see what happens if we take it all the way down. And one of the things that I do when I'm creating videos is I just I preview it at all times. Like I do one thing and then I preview it. It's really about feeling it and it's important to watch your work and kind of go by feeling.
Watch it as a viewer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So let's see how this has changed the video.
So even in watching it, probably we could go down and cut everything down by about half a second. I think one of the key kind of guidelines I look for when I'm previewing videos and with a lot of text is like, could I read that text and was I waiting for the next slide?
Right. So I kind of felt like it lagged a little bit in some places, especially towards the end. I actually feel like we need to bring this up a tiny bit. What do you think?
Yeah.
So bring that up a little bit, back up to 2, you think?
Like pacing and timing is one of the key design ingredients in video.
So true. And it's one of those things that you have to just kind of play with it. And the thing that I like about Spark Video is that it makes it easy to play with it. You're not, in a complicated timeline.
You don't have to like re-render a project.
Yes. You're kind of you're just moving dials and then seeing how that feels. So let's look at this video clip. So we've added this video clip from her camera roll. I'm going to hit this little scissor icon. And now here, this allows me to select what part of the video I want to show and like for how long. So this is your little timer on where you see 3 out of 6 seconds. The whole clip is only 6 seconds, but I'm just going to select. Did we feel like this was dragging too much?
I feel like the part where he's actually painting the face is the most impactful because you get the context.
Yeah.
I think too, as we're talking about this stuff and going back to the importance of the thumbnail is being really like your only opportunity to convince people to click to watch your video is that you're probably not going to get it right the first time. And what I really like about Spark 2 is that you can go in, like you said, it's really easy to switch out that first thumbnail, that cover photo. And you could make 3 variations of your video, tweet all 3 out at different times and see which one resonates the best with your audience. So it's going to be a trial and error experience too, to see like which design, which colors, how all of that, how the perfect combination of that really plays into the engagement level.
Yeah. Love that point of responding to your audience and learning quickly.
Yeah, and back to Amy's point about duplicate and post, it's the same in video. So you could just duplicate that project 3 times, change 1 or 2 of the kind of beginning intro elements and just see what performs.
Yeah, and the ending call to action. Yeah. So do we think that this is, this is a little bit more visual. Okay. So I'm gonna click done. And now it's changed it. I feel like here, maybe this one. I liked how these the 3 examples flashed on the screen. That was fast and quick. I feel like this is where it started to lag.
Yeah.
So maybe we add this message at the beginning, or we just kind of
we'll just speed up some of the timing.
Yeah. Let's see if we can paint it by local artists. Let's see what. Take that down.
So any slide with video on it is going to kind of drive the timeline. So you just adjust the video clip to change the time.
I think we can read that faster as well. Another cool thing is, so these 3 slides are from one video clip. So I actually so if I wanted to have like a seamless transition, but have different thoughts on each thing, I just use this little, on each slide, I just use this little middle icon that's continue from here. So when I click that, Spark Video automatically connects the next slide with the next 2 seconds of the video. So you don't have to like, you don't have to
line up your trimmer.
Yeah, or anything like that. So actually, oops, there we go. So painted by local artists, let's see. And then I think I might need to rewrite these slides, and I want to make sure that it continues from here. So I'm going to click that. Got it. All right, and just bring that down. And it's created a new slide, and then I can add my text here. And this is an important point because it's speaking to Rachel's research that she did around this guide, but it might not be the point that she needs to make in the video. So this is also a good opportunity to think about where can you cut the fat a little bit, and where can you get people to click through because they want to learn more. So I think painted by local artists, maybe we don't need this message here, and we want to just go straight to what the themes are. So I'm actually going to delete this slide. And now I'm going to do this continue from here thing one more. Bring that down. And here is where I'm going to write themes. Range from. Because this will kind of get to her point that they're representing Latin culture, but she doesn't need that kind of like stutter step to that point. And she'll expand on that in her long form content.
I think another thing worth calling out here is just how easy it's been for you to make these changes, because I feel like a lot of people listening to probably agree with this, where we got to a point where all of our bosses just expected us to know how to make video, right? And I didn't know where to begin. And we see these videos on Facebook, on YouTube, and everything looks so good and it looks so produced. And it seems like this is all so hard to do, but when you're seeing it in the back end like this, it really is attainable for anyone, even if you don't have formal training in video, which is, I think, the really important thing here.
So true.
Yeah.
So she's setting up like kind of like a list, like themes range from political statements to scenes of Latina culture and heritage. Another thing that you can do is like maybe she feels like you want to keep eyes moving in video. Yeah. One way to do it is to play with different layouts. So she could go to this top icon that looks like a little
layout icon.
There we go. And with one tap, she can play with different layouts.
This is a great layout for a list view because then you have your imagery or your video clip on the left or right. It's swappable, and then your kind of list item on the other side.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like the red. I also like caption here too because it makes the image in the background the hero. Yeah. So let's try that. And then again, I think I want to be consistent. And this text is overpowering the beautiful image in the background. So I'm going to again, for consistency, select caption. And then political statements is kind of well, let's see what 2 seconds do it because people might want to like see this image longer. All right. Let's see how the video is doing. Still don't got sound.
It's got to succeed without sound.
Yep.
But in regards to sound, you can select from some music choices already within the app or add your own music if you really want your campaign to, resonate on the sound level. You can upload your own tracks.
Yeah, and there actually is sound on this video. If we were not connected to YouTube Air, I think it would actually work. But this music icon, these are all free to use. Well, we can't even hear it yet, so I'm just going to. Yeah. It's in, but Spark kind of.
It's another thing to think about your mood, right? So
yeah.
If it's something more kind of like fast-paced, you want music that's going to, pace well with the video that you're creating. Versus if you're doing something a bit more slow or reflective, choose music that also kind of emulates that. Yeah. So these are different moods. To your point, we've kind of taken some of the guesswork, but you can also bring in your own tracks.
Okay, before we move on and wrap up, the one important thing about a video is your call to action. So she's offering the viewer something because she's giving lots of information up front. You want things to be, you want people to, you can't lead with your marketing. You have to kind of, you want your brand to be there, but but the call to action generally comes at the end once you've hooked people. So this is where her call to action starts. She's hoping that people are intrigued by what's come before. She wants to drive to her guide. And so she's now saying, I'm going to just discover more hidden SF gems. So we just previewed just that one side and then get the guide. So let's see, this probably doesn't need to be 3 seconds, but it's nice to hold on your call to action. Did I miss anything?
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay. So one thing to note is that you can actually make all of your Spark graphics and videos on web pages look and feel like your brand. You have to do that on the desktop version at spark.adobe.com, but you just add your brand, and that means adding your logo, your fonts, and your colors, and then it kind of spits out branded themes, and that way, instead of Adobe Spark being in the corner, you have your own logo.
Yeah. It also, again, reduces a whole set of choices around colors. So if you need to stick to consistent palettes, Spark just does the guesswork for you. It automatically applies that palette across all of your themes, graphics, so that every time you go to create a graphic or a new project with a theme, it's always on brand.
Yes, that's so important too, because as marketers, we are tasked with getting a lot of content out there quickly. Yeah. But our managers, bosses, the design, if you work with design teams, they care about visual consistency. They care about like, well, does that represent our brand? And they should, because that's important to get recognition and to build brand loyalty. You don't want to start the conversation over and over again. And one way to make sure you don't start the conversation over and over again is to have a consistent brand look and feel, yeah, use of logo. And Spark kind of takes the guesswork out of that for marketers. So I think we're just about at time. I'm about to open it up to questions. So I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. Okay. Bethany.
Yeah, we've got a lot of questions from the Twitter audience, and again, just a reminder, if you're watching, you can tweet us questions at #YouCanDesign2. We'll get to as many as we can in the next 10 minutes, but for those we can't, we'll be tweeting back at you to make sure all of your questions get answered.
Yes.
So the first question, when designing with Adobe Spark, do you design it in the mobile view by default, or are there other ways to design?
Great question.
Yeah.
So I personally like to use the mobile. I feel like I'm generally on my phone, and that's how I share things. So I tend to start with mobile, but there's a web version.
Yeah, so you can kind of think of Spark as like Google Docs for creativity. You can log in individually through standalone apps on your device, and then you can also go to web and use all of the apps kind of under one, Spark site. So it's spark.adobe.com, and your same login works across all. And then the great thing is your projects just sync back and forth to your mobile device and online. So you have this point of seamless editing wherever you are. So to work on something in the morning on the train on my phone, come into work, and it's already on there on the site. It's just syncs back and forth. So it's really up to you, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I think the other thing to point out is some use cases are easier to design on mobile versus web. So like social graphics and kind of quick creations, really easy to do on your phone. If you're designing like a more complex flyer or poster, sometimes you need a little bit more screen real estate. And so that's where web can really come into play.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Next question. Can you create a GIF or GIF, because I don't want people to hate me? Spark.
No, not right now.
You can create animated graphics, though. So in post, there's a couple of different animations that you can add, and that really brings, some kind of transition and fun and, that extra layer of movement to your standalone graphics in post.
Totally. Another question is, and this might be more for Carly actually, how important is posting consistently to building your audience?
I think posting consistently is one of the best things that you can do. I would advocate for people being more into the idea of posting consistently, even if it only means once a week, rather than posting like every single day, driving after quantity. One good post a week will teach your audience to come back to receive that content from you once a week. And it's really getting people in a habit of knowing they can rely on you for information that's high quality on a regular basis. So I think consistency is huge in posting and distributing content, but also consistency in terms of the design, which we talked a lot about today, is really going to help you stand out, because I don't think a ton of brands really get it quite right yet. There's definitely a lot of teams that have really sophisticated design teams, and they're totally nailing it on social media. But if you're a smaller brand and you don't have a lot of dedicated design resources, I think one thing you can do is just like stick to a color palette. And it's really going to help you become recognizable to your audience when they're scrolling through social. They'll stop and know that it's you just based on visually what it looks like.
Yeah, actually, to expand on that, I have another question for Carly. How do you go about picking your distribution channels? Like, do you have any tips for that? Because like, there's so many options out there now. It can be very overwhelming. Yeah,
and again, this sort of goes back to the quality over quantity thing. Is like, you really want to figure out where your audience is hanging out and meet them where they are. So in the beginning, that might mean spreading yourself thin across a lot of different channels and starting to see what sticks. Of course, you can inform that with some persona research, but I would focus on the channels that are delivering the best ROI for you, and then just really focus on tailoring the strategy to those channels. So that's going to take a while too. So it isn't an overnight process, but in terms of distribution, yeah, I think less is more, and focus on the ones that are going to deliver the most rather than trying to, again, spread yourself thin.
Awesome. Another question for the Adobe Spark ladies. How are you able to make the white letters stand out in the video with such colorful backgrounds? People want to know, do you make that background darker than it was originally?
So video actually does that automatically between the text and really bright backgrounds. It knows to add like a 10% shim of black, and that's what we know from a product perspective. No matter what content you add, we can guarantee that it's going to be legible. So that's something you don't even have to think about.
Thank God, because I don't even know what like a shim. 10% shim means.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It just gives like a consistent dark grading over whatever content you bring to the app. And I think that's the whole point of Spark, is that, we're taking some of the guesswork and some of the design work off your plate, so you can just focus on creating great content. So you're not having to like think through some of those kind of minor legibility things.
Focusing on your story, your message, nailing that, and your distribution. That's enough to think about than having to memorize like
legibility, contrast principles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's actually really cool. I know I have used Adobe Spark for videos before, and I didn't know that, so that's really nice. Another question was, when creating a video, can images alone be the hook, or does it have to be with text?
It's a really good question. I would say, I personally think the most successful thing is to mix a bit of imagery and video. And what video does is it will add motion to your imagery, so your imagery doesn't feel static. So it's not that, we've seen really successful videos where it's all images, but the way that they're cut together feels really like emulative of a video. So it'll be like, short, short, long, or long, short, like it kind of has some pacing to it.
Yes.
So there is a way of, just creating a video project with images, which can still very much feel like a video. But it's so compelling when you see, a series of images, and then you actually see a video clip, and you actually see someone move or someone do something. And you can, to Amy's point about the trimmer, you can really kind of isolate that point of impact, so that, as you're creating your rhythm in your video, if you add one video clip along with, a couple images, you really it's a really good opportunity to grab attention. And it can be clips from your phone. You can also license stock footage. If you feel like you've done a photo shoot of, great food photography, and you're like, oh, it'd be really cool if I had, just a short video clip of like someone cutting or someone plating something. You can kind of use your strategic sense of like pairing imagery and video together to really kind of get that effect.
Yeah, I actually got the video clip that we showed in the creation is from stock. We also we sometimes use free stock services. We love, like, you don't always have time to go out and shoot.
Yeah.
But I also have created a ton of really successful videos just using my iPhone and just kind of trying to keep it steady.
Little tripods are great.
Little tripods, they're like, they're $15. And so it's, I mean, we have such a powerful tool in our pocket at all times. And the way that the cameras are coming up, you really don't always need like a film production crew. I mean, that's great when you get those things, because I love working with those experts and, you know, those professionals. But at the speed of that social moves, you can't always do that. Yeah.
I totally agree. To chime in there too, like obviously there's benefits in having beautifully produced videos and there's needs for those in your marketing efforts too. But I think what's great about having a distribution strategy too for social media is that users on there have gotten used to having these sort of like raw, not super produced types of videos. It's what they see from their friends. So if they see it from a brand, it's just natural. It feels like it fits on the platform, which takes a little bit of the pressure off for the content creators.
Oh, true. Stand out by fitting in. You want to, like, especially on Facebook, you kind of got to be real and authentic. And
totally.
Yeah. I'd also say that like you have the opportunity to add video that's not necessarily related to the subject matter of your campaign and just kind of have it be supporting atmospheric video is like a term we use sometimes. So
video backgrounds.
Yeah, if your campaign is a like clean water campaign, you know, you can grab great video clips of just like rain falling or a river moving, and it's like kind of tangential or related, but it just draws that kind of connection point in.
Yeah.
Totally.
Any other questions?
Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Great. Someone asked, is the trimmer for video available in the desktop version as well as in the mobile version?
Yes. Yeah. The apps pretty much work exactly the same from mobile to desktop, from mobile to web. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And then one last question, I think mostly for Amanda. Where do you go to get, well, actually, it's really for any of you. Where do you go to get design inspiration? Or what tips do you have for if you want to come up with, like, say you need to come up with some Instagram images for the week, and you know they need to all be different. Where do you go for just straight design inspiration?
Oh, well, we can both answer this.
Yeah. We work on it a lot together too.
We do. We send a lot of, I feel like we're always sending each other things on Instagram. Like when we see, stuff, there's like certain hashtags I look at.
The collections feature on Instagram is for saving.
Yes. That's actually my lifesaver. I have so much great content saved. It's inspirational. I like looking at actually photo services like Pixabay, Unsplash. To be honest, sometimes I just like open Spark Post and I don't know what I want to create yet. But there's some built-in inspiration to the apps that like get me started. So I can like search for imagery and then like maybe that will like inspire the text. And then other times I have some text in mind and then I go look for the imagery. So it's kind of, it's a mix of both. And then I just feel like, I mean, San Francisco like is such a rich environment, like all cities. You guys are in Boston, which I love Boston. I went to school there. So I feel like it's kind of all around. And since I've been working at Spark, I feel like I've been noticing signage more and
I would say going back to the earlier point, it's like if finding imagery is hard, like high quality imagery, I would start with like, well, what kind of imagery best represents my brand or my client or the campaign? And like that at least gives you some points to focus on, because I find one of the things with imagery is like knowing which keywords to search help cut through a lot of the noise. So like one of my like favorite keywords to search in Spark Post is like bright, actually brings up like great, bright kind of contemporary imagery. Textures brings up a whole bunch of like really cool natural textures, which are great for placing type on because they're more kind of plain and subtle in the background. Like landscape, and then like any variation of landscape, like foggy landscape, natural, rolly hill, like all of that. So it's just helpful to figure out like what kind of imagery you're looking for before you start to look for it.
That's always helpful.
It sounds so basic, and like I don't mean to sound like kind of contrived, but it's so key because like there's over 1 million images accessible within the apps. It's like knowing how to find a needle in the haystack sometimes. Portraits is a great way to search for human photography because instead of just searching like person, which just brings up a random assortment of people, portraits gives more like depth of field, more cool black and white photography, more lighting. So just kind of knowing like which keywords to search is also really helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
I think another good tip there so when I was running HubSpot's marketing blog, I had to select featured images for every single blog post. So I spent a lot of time searching through stock photos. And one hack that I found was really helpful was that once I found a photographer, it depends on the like exact stock platform that you're using, but you can just click into that one photographer and then you sort of create consistency just by using their photos. And typically if you like one, you'll like the rest of their work as well. So that was a really good way for me to narrow my focus when I was like, what do I put on these posts, you know?
That's such a good tip. I also like to like a lot of, I know Stock does this, I think Unsplash as well, you can find similar. Yeah. So you find one image and then there's like, you generally have a whole series or a whole photo shoot behind it.
Yeah.
These are amazing tips, everyone. I think we're somehow already out of time.
Went by so fast.
I know, it really did. But this has been really, really awesome. For those of you on Twitter who submitted questions and we didn't have time to get to those, we'll make sure to answer them after this. But Amy, Amanda, Carly, thank you so much. This has been so, so great.
Thank you. Hope you guys had a good time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and have a great day.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.